Right. Get ready to dive into a field that's, not always in the spotlight, but it's so crucial we got to talk about it. Residential care homework. And listen, when you send in all that info from RoleCatcher, I knew right away you were serious about really understanding this line of work. Gotta say, I'm impressed. It might not be the first thing everyone thinks of career-wise, but let me tell you, the more we unpack here, the more you'll see just how essential it really is.
You hit the nail on the head. What's really interesting is this whole field, it's only becoming more vital as time goes on. People are living longer, which is fantastic, of course, but that also means the need for truly compassionate, skilled care. It's through the roof.
Isn't it? It's like this whole piece of our society is kind of like booming, yet most folks don't even know where to start to wrap their heads around it. Thankfully, you shared RoleCatcher's amazing career guide with us. And let me tell you, they don't mess around. They get deep.
One thing that immediately struck me was how they defined the job itself. They said it's all about creating a client-focused environment where their well-being is supported, not just checking off tasks, but actual genuine well-being. That's got to resonate, don't you think? It's about the whole person.
100%. And that gets at something so fundamental about residential care homework. You know it's holistic. It's not just one thing, it's everything. Physical health, mental health, emotional well-being, the whole picture. You're following these carefully put together care plans, working hand in hand with healthcare pros. It's really a team effort, all dedicated to giving that comprehensive care. Speaking of care plans, and maybe this is just me being curious, but for those of us who aren't super familiar, what exactly is a care plan in this context? Like, how detailed do those get? We're talking about real people's lives here, after all.
You're right. It's deeply personal. A care plan is like a roadmap. But for each resident's well-being, it lays out all their needs, preferences, even their goals, and I mean everything, from what they can eat and when they take their meds to if they need help moving around and even what social things they enjoy. It considers their medical history, sure, but also their personality, their cultural background, everything that makes them them.
Wow, so we're talking super tailored. I can see how that kind of work would require a really special kind of person, someone who's got that balance of being organized, but also just deeply, genuinely empathetic. Which actually reminds me, the RoleCatcher guide, it gets real about the day-to-day. Like, it's not all sunshine and roses, right? They're upfront about that.
Yeah.
Yes, there's helping folks with, well, personal stuff, bathing, getting dressed, maybe lending a hand with meals. But then there's the other layer, the emotional support, just being there for someone, providing companionship. That human connection piece feels so central to it all.
It's everything. Just imagine for a moment needing help with even the most basic stuff. Maybe you're feeling kind of isolated, anxious, just unsure. A residential care home worker, they become that steady, compassionate presence, that friendly face, someone who will listen, a reassuring hand to hold. It's about making sure someone's dignity is preserved and fostering that sense of genuine connection.
You said the magic word there, compassion. And it's interesting because the guide actually lists finding the work deeply rewarding as a major pro of this career path. Like the idea that you can truly, tangibly make a difference in someone's life. That's powerful. But of course, it's not all sunshine and roses, is it? The guide also lists the job as emotionally demanding in the cons section. So how do you think someone figures out if they're cut out for that kind of, I don't know, emotional tightrope walk?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It really does take a certain kind of resilience to thrive in that environment, no doubt. Yes, you're drawing on your empathy, but it also requires strong boundaries and solid self-care practices. It's not for everyone, but for the right person. It's a career path that constantly pushes you to grow as a human being.
It's a real balancing act, huh? Between being there for someone else and making sure you don't lose yourself in the process. Sort of like, I don't know, being a marathon runner who also needs to know when to take a break. And speaking of marathons, this career path, it's got some serious staying power. The stuff you sent over mentioned that the job outlook in this field, it's incredibly bright. Did you know that by the time we hit 2030, the U.S. alone is going to need over 1 million new care workers? That's insane.
It's true. And honestly, it's something a lot of folks just don't realize. I think they hear caregiving and they automatically think, oh, dead-end job. But in reality, with the demand being so high, we're talking amazing job security and some serious potential for growth within this field. You could totally start as a care assistant and then with some experience and training under your belt, climb all the way up to, get this, care home manager. Talk about a rewarding career trajectory.
Okay, now you're just showing off. Care home manager, that's a whole different ballgame. We're talking leadership with a capital L. And it makes me think about another thing. RoleCatcher did a really good job breaking down those different career stages. They outline 4 distinct levels, each with its own set of responsibilities and, I'm assuming, its own unique rewards. Walk us through those stages a bit, would you? Give us a sense of what a typical day might look like at each level.
Okay, so picture this. You're brand new to the scene, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, just starting out as a care assistant. You're the eyes and ears on the ground floor, the heart and soul of the operation. So you're helping residents with those everyday tasks we talked about, of course. But more importantly, you're building real, genuine connections with these folks. You're learning their routines, what they like, what they don't like, their life stories. It's about making them feel seen, heard, and truly valued.
It sounds like incredibly challenging work, but also incredibly rewarding. I'm curious, though, what happens as you progress? When you move up to senior care assistant, how does that role change things?
So as a senior care assistant, you get to wear a few more hats, that's for sure. You're still hands-on, don't get me wrong, but you're also taking on more of a mentorship role, sharing your hard-earned wisdom with the newer staff, providing guidance, that kind of thing. And here's where it gets interesting. You're often the one who's actually developing those individual care plans we were talking about. You're assessing the residents' needs, working with their families, making sure their wishes and preferences are front and center.
It's like this beautiful blend of, like, direct care and big picture thinking, right?
Yeah.
You're not just doing anymore, you're leading. But let's say you're ready for even more responsibility. What does the leap to care home coordinator look like?
Think of the care home coordinator as like the conductor of an orchestra. They're the ones who are overseeing all those day-to-day operations, making sure everything runs smoothly, no drama. So they're managing the staff, sorting out the schedules, making sure those policies are being implemented, and just constantly putting out fires, basically. Plus, they're the main point of contact between the care home staff and the healthcare professionals, ensuring that every resident's getting top-notch, seamless care.
That's a ton of responsibility. It takes a special kind of person to handle all that. You got to be compassionate, but also organized and able to, like, stay calm under pressure. And finally, we've reached the tippy top of the mountain, care home manager. What sets this role apart from the others?
The care home manager, they're the visionary, the leader with a capital L. They carry the weight of the entire care home's success on their shoulders. We're talking strategic planning, budgeting like a boss, building relationships with all those external stakeholders. It's about making sure the care home thrives as a business while never, ever losing sight of its core purpose, providing absolutely outstanding care to every single resident.
Wow, we've gone from hands-on care all the way to, like, overseeing an entire organization.
Yeah.
That's incredible. It really highlights the sheer variety of opportunities within this field. But for a moment, I want to zoom back in on those essential skills we touched on earlier. RoleCatcher stresses that active listening and customer and personal service are absolutely essential if you want to succeed in residential care. Why do you think those particular skills are so critical in this line of work?
Those two skills, they're like the foundation upon which everything else is built. We're talking trust and understanding, which are absolutely crucial in this kind of environment. Active listening means not just hearing the words someone's saying, but really hearing them. And just as importantly, picking up on what they might not be saying. It's about noticing those nonverbal cues, understanding their needs even when they can't quite articulate them themselves. It's about meeting them right where they are.
It makes me think about those moments when you can tell someone's trying to communicate something, but maybe the words aren't coming out right, or maybe they're a little afraid to speak up. That's where those deeper listening skills really come into play, huh?
Exactly. And that's where customer and personal service goes hand in hand with that active listening. It's about being their advocate, being their voice when they need you to be. It's about ensuring that they always feel heard, respected, and genuinely valued for who they are as individuals.
It's like you're walking in and you're saying, I get you. I see your vibe. I'm on board. That's got to make a difference for sure. We've covered a ton today, everything from the nitty-gritty of those care plans to the bigger picture of how this whole industry is growing. But honestly, the thing that keeps coming back to me is the human side of it all. We're talking about a career where you're showing up for people in such a personal, intimate way. That's got to be something special.
It really is. And it's something you just can't replicate with, like, an algorithm or something.
Oh.
Yeah, technology, it's definitely shaking things up in healthcare, and residential care is no exception. But at the end of the day, this work, it all boils down to human connection. Compassion, understanding that everyone deserves to feel valued, respected, no matter what stage of life they're in.
So well said. And you actually just touched on something I wanted to circle back to. Remember how you mentioned earlier that technology is changing things? Well, RoleCatcher briefly mentioned the rise of things like telehealth and even using AI for monitoring in residential care. And it got me thinking, how do you see technology impacting the human side of caregiving in the future?
Oh man, that's the million-dollar question right there, isn't it? But I'll tell you what I don't think it's about. I don't think it's about robots replacing people. Instead, I see it as technology transforming how we provide care. Imagine a world where AI is handling things like monitoring vital signs, and it can alert nurses immediately if something seems off. That frees them up to spend more quality time with the residents. Or think about telehealth. Suddenly, residents can easily connect with specialists they might not have had access to before.
So it's like technology could take over some of those more routine tasks, the stuff that could be automated, and that opens up space for those deeper, more meaningful human interactions, the kind of stuff that needs empathy, creativity, a listening ear, all those things that make us human.
Exactly. And that's something I want you all listening to really chew on as we wrap up our deep dive today. As technology continues to, do its thing in the world of residential care, what skills are going to become even more essential in human caregivers? What qualities can't be replicated by a machine, no matter how fancy or high tech it gets? Because as much as things change, some things, like genuine compassion and that powerful human connection, those are timeless. Those will always matter.